Hey, good evening. Thank you for everyone for joining us tonight here on the Thursday Night Hockey Show. Lots to go through. Going to be a short show tonight, but we do have a lot of stuff to go through. I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to those on TikTok. Thank you to those on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you're joining us from. I really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, a share, and subscribe. It helps us out. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel so that we can get a little more control over what we can do with the YouTube channel. So if you're out there, hop on over to YouTube. If you're on TikTok right now, the link is in my bio. If not, just have fun watching the show. Really appreciate you joining us. So tonight, let's take a look at the night in the NHL. It's going to be a hugely busy night. So we've got the World Junior Championship games that have been going on all day today. In fact, the United States right now is playing. Canada will be playing here in about a half hour or so. But there are 11 NHL games going on tonight, including my Buffalo Sabres finally returning back to the ice. We'll get into that in a little bit. But they take on the Detroit Red Wings at home at 7 o'clock tonight. Let's see where else we got. We got the Canadians and the Panthers in Florida at 7 o'clock. Both teams are having kind of a disappointing season, but much more disappointing on the Panthers side at this point because they're below NHL 500. So, not sure what's going to drop there, but I think something's going to drop soon in Florida. The Rangers are down in Tampa to take on the Lightning at 7 o'clock as well. The Caps with Alex Ovechkin, and we'll get into his story here in a moment. But Alex Ovechkin hosting the Ottawa Senators tonight at 7 o'clock. Then we move to the 7:30 straight slated games. The cool thing about tonight is that you got games all night tonight. So start watching at 7 and go until 1 o'clock in the morning if it's an overtime game there on the West Coast. But 7:30 tonight, the Islanders host the Blue Jackets. At 8 o'clock, the Blackhawks are in St. Louis to take on the Blues. So old heated rivalry. Good to see that renewed again, even though that both teams are having a struggle this year, especially the Blackhawks. The Stars are being hosted by the Wild at 8 o'clock. Also at 8 o'clock, the Jets and the Canucks in Winnipeg. At 9 p.m., the Kings and the Avalanche are in Denver at Ball Arena, and the Maple Leafs are headed to the desert for their one and only match at the Mullet in Tempe. So I wonder what percentage of the fans there at Tempe of the 5,000 that can get in are going to be Maple Leafs fans. I'm sure a lot of college kids made a lot of money off this game. So and then Flyers Sharks at 10:30, the last game of the night. Not the most exciting matchup, but if you're a hockey junkie like me, you'll probably stay up and I'll probably be doom scrolling on TikTok or Facebook while I'm watching that game's going on in the background. But yeah, it's a busy night tonight. I'm looking forward to having my Sabres back in action because it's been a while. Um, Let me pop this screen off. All right, so let's go to our breaking news. All right, so congrats to Alexander Ovechkin. Moments after we went off the air last week, Alex Ovechkin tied Gordie Howe in a game against the Winnipeg Jets, and with 801 goals, a nice little tap and play for him. And then later in the game, empty net goal, and you could tell he really didn't want to score the empty net goal. He didn't want to break get 802 on an empty net goal. In fact, he tried to pass it off, and he got the pass right back. And I will say, for an empty net goal, it was a pretty tricky shot because he was not even facing the net when he shot it. Hit the net, 802. He is now alone in second place in the NHL gold scoring race of all time. Um, lots made of the rivalry between Crosby and Ovechkin, and I was looking at this the other day. They've played roughly the same amount of years, although Ovechkin has quite a few more games than Crosby because Crosby had those injury issues in the early to mid part of his career with the concussions. Um, but Ovechkin's miles ahead of him in goals, 802 to like 556 or something like that. But um, having played all these years together and having been tied together, they're like Crosby's ahead of Ovechkin by 1 point in their careers. It's kind of amazing to me. So, it's been a great rivalry throughout the years, and I'm glad to see both of them still performing at a higher level. Although I'm not the biggest fan of Sidney Crosby, um, uh, just the longevity of his career and how he came back from the early concussion issues to not let that bring him down like it did like an Eric Lindros. Um, is good to see. And the NHL is good for having players like Crosby and Ovechkin in those rivalries and things like that. So, but 802 for Alexander Ovechkin tonight back on the ice to try and add to that total, get closer to Gretzky. He's 92 goals away, I believe, from the record now. And it's not going to be. He's going to pile on some more goals this season. It won't be next season that he sets the record, but it'll be the season after that probably. he hasn't slowed down in his scoring. I mean, he's still popping in 40 goals at least a season. So, yeah, I would not be surprised to see him get to the record by the end of not next season, but the season afterwards. Um, and he's still young enough. I still think that he's going to stick around in the NHL long enough to get 1,000 goals. That's my prediction for Alex Ovechkin is to stick around long enough, get that 1,000 goal mark, and then he can hang it up. Um, I think he sticks with Washington, but yeah, it remains to be seen what it holds for Alex Ovechkin. But I think he can get to 1,000 goals in his career. Let's see. The Winter Classic is Monday in Boston. Or I'm sorry, Sunday in Boston at Fenway Park. Pittsburgh versus Boston Bruins. You know, Fenway's an iconic place, of course. You know, old baseball stadium, beautiful stadium. It's not that the outdoor games are being overdone to me. I think it's that. Um, uh, I think it's that we've seen the same teams over and over again. I think that's the problem here. And I'm hoping that the NHL gets to really uh, start pushing the Winter Classic around. I know we're getting a outdoor game in Raleigh here in the next month or so. So that's cool. I'm glad to see Raleigh getting a game. Carolina Hurricane fans are they're called Caniacs for a reason. I'm glad they're getting a game. Um, I just I think it's a combination of the geographic locations being overplayed, and I think the teams are being overplayed. I'm glad that Chicago is not one of the winter class or outdoor teams this year because it seems like they had been in every one since probably the second time that they did a winter classic. Um, I'm not real keen on seeing Pittsburgh and Boston. I'll probably watch some of the game, but it's not really piquing my interest. So, um, let's see. One cool thing about the Winter Classic though is that Bobby Orr is going to be tossing out the first puck of the game. He'll be dropping the puck at center ice, which is cool. It's been a really tough year for sports icons. Today we just had learned that Pele passed away. We learned that that we've had guys like Bill Russell pass away, and Bruce Sutter, and just some iconic sports stars pass away this year. So while we can enjoy guys like Bobby Orr and some of the gray heads of the game, I'm glad to see that Bobby Orr is going to be part of the Winter Classic. So I'm happy with that. Speaking of it's not really related to the Winter Classic, but a participant in the Winter Classic. Congratulations to the aforementioned Sidney Crosby. He is going to become Order of Canada officer now. The I guess this is handed out by the Governor General of Canada. Canada is part of the British Commonwealth. They have a Governor General, so um, uh, you know. Oh, so is Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh's been in the Winter Classic way too many times. Um, I get you there. Thank you, BB. Appreciate it. Um, but Sidney Crosby, Inner Order of Canada officer, so it's a honorific title. Um, I don't know if it's anything kind of like being knighted, or it's just kind of like an award, like Congressional Medal of Honor that we hand out here in the United States. So, but congratulations to him. They're handing out to a few sports celebrities in Canada, and Sidney Crosby's getting it this year. Let's see. The World Juniors are on right now. And speaking of Canada, that's up in Halifax and Moncton, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Moncton, New Brunswick, are hosting the World Junior Hockey Championships. Um, Very entertaining game so far. It's really interesting to watch how parity has kind of settled into the World Juniors this year because opening night the Canadians got off to a rough start. They lost to the team Czechia So if you don't know, the Czech Republic now goes by the name Czechia. But Czechia won the game 5-2, and Canada had to stew on that one for about 48 hours. Um, uh, and then took it out on Germany by scoring 11 goals and winning 11-2 last night. So, the rumors of Canada's demise are greatly exaggerated. Um, but let's see. Canada, Connor Bedard's the projected number one overall pick of this year's draft, the dream player of teams like Arizona and Chicago and the Anaheim Ducks and Columbus Blue Jackets. I you know I they're all watching this tournament, and last night Bedard had 7 points, tied a World Juniors record. So this kid's as advertised. He's pretty stout out there. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does over the rest of the season, and if he actually does become the first overall pick. Last year's first overall pick, at least presumptive first overall pick, going into that tournament is actually playing in this tournament. Shane Wright with Canada. Um, didn't have a bad tournament, I didn't think. But as the year went on, his draft stock dropped for some reason, and the draft stock of Uri Slavkovsky of Slovakia rocketed up. I mean, he played well in the Olympics, and helped lead Slovakia to a silver medal. And he ended up going number one overall to the Canadians. Mixed bag on results for both players going into this tournament, but just because the guy is the number one pick going into the tournament or even through the tournament doesn't mean they're going to be the number one pick. Although I'm feeling pretty good about Connor Bedard sticking in that number one spot. Um, not only did the Canadians have a tough time coming out of the gate, the Finns did too. They lost their first game. No, not Slovenia, Slovakia, baby. But not only did the Finns had a tough time in their first game, they lost to Slovakia and got out. Slovakia is for real. People have slept on Slovakia for a long time, and they thought since Uri Slavkovsky was not going to be on the team this year, they weren't going to be quite as good. But they came out of the gates and they beat Slovakia, so they're a good team. I wouldn't sleep on Slovakia because Slovakia came out the next night and knocked off the United States, and they're currently lead the group with 6 points. Um, so yeah, the United States lost 6-3 last night. Again, it's the parity of the tournament. You're starting to see some of these teams that usually float around the middle of the pack are starting to win some games against the big teams, and I would be remiss to not mention that the Russians are missing from this tournament. So there used to be another team that would beat up other teams. They're no longer in the World Junior, so it's really, the two-headed monster of the United States and Canada. You got the two-headed Scandinavian monster of Finland and Sweden, and then everyone else. But now we're starting to see the Czechs and the Slovaks are really picking up their game. The Germans are playing really well, even though they haven't had any real good results yet. They're still playing well. Who's not playing well? The Austrians. Austrians are getting rocked. Um, they've played 2 games, they've lost both games, by a combined score of 20-0, and, they just don't look good. They're early relegation favorites. Of course, the this year's tournament features relegation for the first time since 2019, which means the team that finishes last in the tournament is booted down to a lower division and has to compete their way back up into the upper divisions. And, so, 20 the Austrians right now are the early favorites. The other favorite to join them in the relegation round will be Latvia. Latvia's played really well. I mean, they're a tough out. They're not. It's not like they're getting blown out each night. They lost the Americans 5-2. They've had a couple one goal losses. They lost in overtime, I think, in one game. So, um, you know, the I would think that unless there's something shocking that happens with the Latvians going into that relegation round that we'll see Austria drop down around. I know I talked about who's coming up. I think it's Norway coming up in the next tournament. So, but tonight can get really ugly because Austria already, you know, already having given up 20 goals, 10 goals a game, are going to play Canada, and Canada, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 15-0 game. Uh, the Swedes played Austria the other night. It was a 9-0 loss, which was better than the first game. I'm sorry, Sweden's beat them 11-0. Uh, who was it beat them 9-0? Slovakia beat them 9-0. Uh, they had more shots. I'm sorry, the Slovakians had more goals than the Austrians had shots, or it was the Czechs. It was the Czechs. Had more goals than the Austrians had shots in that game. Nine goals for the Czechs and uh, 8 shots for the Austrians. It's pretty sad. No song request. You cannot you I cannot play that song because it'll take me off if I play normal songs on here. So let's see. But yeah, right now the standings are the Czechs are leading their Group A. They're over the Swedes. Actually, I'm sorry, that's not accurate right now because they just played today. The Swedes are now in first. Swedes have 2 wins and an overtime win for 8 points. The Czechs are 2-0, 2-0. They haven't expanded. Um, uh, standing. So they give points for overtime wins, overtime losses, shootout losses. So the Czechs are in second. Canadians are in third on 3 points. So they've only played 2 games. They had the one loss and then the one big win. The Germans 12-2. Yeah, the Germans had the tough game against Canada, but they beat Austria, so they should avoid, or they're going to probably beat Austria. They should avoid relegation unless the Germans just get completely shocked in that game. Um, and in Group B, which is the group that the United States is in, the United States is in second. I think they just won. Yeah, 5-1 victory for the United States this afternoon over the Swiss, who were in they were in second going into today because uh, they uh, they had 2 overtime wins, so they had 4 points. Lose today, they dropped down to third. If you're the United States, you want to win this group because winning this group means you avoid whoever finishes second or third in the crossover group. The U.S. is right now in a must-win on Monday against the Finns to finish at the top of that group. The Finns do have one more point right now, but if the U.S. wins outright, then they should win the group. Again, avoiding the Canadians or the Swedes or even the Czechs in that first round crossover game. So yeah, U.S. is in second place right now, but they do control their own fate. But that's what's going on in the World Juniors. If you want to check out the World Juniors, it's on NHL Networks this year. They're also showing the games on ESPN Plus, so um, plenty of chance to watch these games. Watch some day hockey. It's always good. Helps the day go by a little bit faster when I'm at work. So nice to have a little white noise and a little hockey to watch. Let's see. The Penguins. Let's get back to the NHL. The Penguins blew a 4-goal lead last night. They were up 4-0 almost midway through the game against the Detroit Red Wings. They're at home. You think, man, they're on their way, and did not happen at all. The Red Wings managed to get a couple goals before the end of the second period. They scored 2 more goals, and including the game tying goal with about 3 minutes left in the third period. And then Wallman for the Red Wings scored in overtime to get the 2 points. He does the gritty as he goes down the ice after scoring. It was pretty sick. Um, pretty much appreciate the unusual celly for the or the guy from the Red Wings. Hopefully, he does that not do that tonight with my Sabres playing tonight. Um, let's see. Let us go to some injury news. Yeah, so, nice thing about the winter break is that you're not having as many games and you're not having as many injuries and not as having as many discipline issues. But St. Louis is going to be without the services of Torrey Krug for at least 6 weeks. They put him on long term IR. They could bring him back earlier than 6 weeks, but they said the reports are saying that he's going to be reevaluated at 6 weeks. So it doesn't even sound like he'll be back in that 6 week period, or that week period ends. Um, Crew, like the rest of the Blues, has had kind of an off and on season this year. 17 points, and the Blues have struggled. It's a really interesting team in St. Louis. They'll go hot, they'll win 6 or 7 in a row, and then they'll lose 7 in a row. Don't know what's going on in St. Louis this year. Um, but yeah, they're going to be without the services of Torrey Krug, their offensive-minded defenseman, who's had a struggle this year. So, wonder how much that injury has impacted him, because there wasn't really any indication going into the winter break that he was having any issues. He played like 23 minutes the game before the winter break. So, just kind of a surprising turn of events for the St. Louis Blues. In the game right before, well, the game that Alexander Ovechkin got 801, 802. John Carlson was injured early in the third period by taking a slap shot from Brendan Dillon of the Winnipeg Jets to the face, which is never fun. And he's out from week to week at this point. He was put on long term, or not long term IR, just regular IR, which means you have to stay on there for 7 days at a minimum. And so tonight would be the seventh day. He could be able to come off tomorrow, but I think he's still going to be out for maybe another week or so. Um, and he joins a cadre of Washington Capitals on the injured list with guys like Backstrom and Tom Wilson, and TJ Oshie's been on there off and on. Carl Haglin's been on there. They've just lost a ton of man games this year, but they're red hot. Going into the break, they were just winning up a storm, and they're rocketing up the Metro standings. So challenging teams like the Rangers and the Islanders, and you know could put some pressure on a team like the Penguins if they keep going like they're going. But they just need to get some healthy players back. I think Tom Wilson should be coming back anytime now. I haven't really heard too much about his injury, but the time frame that they'd given us was towards the new year. So we're getting close to the time where you should start seeing Tom Wilson on the ice. Another person that's been on the ice, it's surprising, is for the Carolina Hurricanes, Max Pacioretty. He had, I believe, it was an Achilles injury in the offseason surgery. Um, he had been doing some light skating, but coming out of the winter break, he's actually taking the non-contact jersey off, so he should be ramping up pretty soon to get back into the lineup for the Carolina Hurricanes. So the rich will get richer there in the Metro Division with the first place Hurricanes getting uh, Mister Pacioretty back. Oh, what did we say? Oh, the wife comes through. Oh, she skated with a full contact jersey on today. Uh, yeah. So getting players back for the Caps will be good. Um, let's see. The second leading rookie scorer in the NHL. Probably wouldn't be able to guess it if I gave you an hour and you couldn't look it up. But Matthias Maselli of the Arizona Coyotes is the second leading scorer in the rookie scorer in the NHL. It's taken a big hit to his Calder campaign. He is now on the shelf for 6 weeks with a lower body injury suffered against the LA Kings in the last game leading into the winter break. So we won't see him try until February, early February, back on the ice for the Coyotes. It's not impacting the Arizona's chances. It's just, he's a good young player. This is for Arizona to get out of its funk, and build a winning team. They're going to need some of these guys that you didn't really predict uh, were going to win or to be that big of a player. So Matias Maselli uh, is, probably won't win the Calder this year. He'll get passed as he's injured, but you know, I look forward to seeing what he does when he comes back. All right. Now on to the discipline report. All right. So, Minnesota's Mason Shaw was suspended for 2 games for kneeing the Sharks forward Evgeny Svechnikov, the lesser Svechnikov brother. Um, no word on injuries for Svechnikov, but the actions for Mason Shaw were enough that the league threw him 2 games for that incident. Also, the Maple Leafs were fined $100,000. Why, you may ask? Because they decided to fly early. So during the NHL's winter holiday, teams are prohibited from traveling between the hours of midnight on December 20. Well, technically it was December 24th until the till midnight on the 27th. Give players 3 full days where they don't have to travel, don't have to be with teams. There's no team events, nothing. Um, and the the team decided that it wanted to get to St. Louis early. They left at 10:30 from Toronto and flew down to St. Louis. Um, I mean, I get it in some ways. You're a player. You don't want to get in at like 4 o'clock in the morning into a city when there really is no reason to. And play a team when you're dog tired. So you get in at 10. Leave 10:30, get in at midnight, probably at the hotel by 2 a.m., get a pretty good night's sleep, and uh, it helped them. I will say that they got away with a 5-4 win over the St. Louis Blues in overtime, but the game was also costly for a guy like Sheldon Keefe, the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, was very incensed at a penalty that was not called during the game, and it looks like $25,000 fine for him. So it was a very costly game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. $125,000 in fines just for one game, one just at uh, one towards the one's on the game and one for getting in early. And then let's see. As far as teams of the week this week, we're not going to do any because there were really just not enough games with the winter break. Most teams are kind of went into that winter break on a kind of 500. The team that was on a good roll were my Sabers. The Sabres were on a 4-game winning streak when they last left the road. I don't know why this person keeps inviting themselves into my. But the Sabres were winners of four in a row, winners three in a row on the road. Um, so we can get into the Sabres beat this week. The question I have for the Sabres this week, is how rusty are they? They have been playing really well going into that break. They were supposed to play Tampa at the end of the week on a few days rest. Could have given Tampa some troubles um, in Buffalo. Maybe on a 5-game winning streak going into the break, and then the first game out of the break was probably going to be a win. I'm trying not to be too down on the Columbus Blue Jackets, but when the Sabres bombed them the other night or a couple weeks ago, the Sabres are on a roll. and those 2 games didn't happen. Now they've been off almost 2 weeks, or a week and a half now, and how rusty are they gonna be? Um, that's the question I have for the Sabres. Can they come back out and continue to play really well going into, as we get into the end of the year, start of the new year? They still have ground to make up. They can't, say, "Oh, we won 4 in a row. Okay, we'll drop 2 in a row." No, they need to keep the ball rolling, and it seems over the last few seasons, especially with the COVID seasons and when they had forced breaks, one of the things that the Sabres didn't do well was come back from those breaks and play well. So that's another thing that they need to prove this season is, can you be resilient and come back from these weird breaks because Buffalo got like 85 feet of snow in the last 3 days. Um, you know, that's that's what you gotta look at. How rusty are the Sabres? How well will they come out of the break? So uh one last thing, we do have the 3 stars of the week, and the 3 stars of the week in the NHL were Alexander Ovechkin, of course, 802 goals. You're going to give him first star for that. Alexander Georgiev with the Colorado Avalanche, the goalie, he was 3-0 over the week, 82 out of 85 saves. Ever since Buffalo beat Colorado has come back and has played well, so, good on them, and the, Elias Pettersson out of Vancouver, in only 2 games had 7 points. Uh, Not quite Connor Bedard numbers, but, Elias Pettersson, 2 goals, 5 assists last week in 2 games, helping Vancouver, um, kinda tread water at this point, so anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me see if do we have any scores yet? No, nothing started yet. Looks like we're in anthems for most of the games that are starting at 7 o'clock. But thank you for joining us this week. Thank you to those who commented, including my wife. Where are you at? Oh, Canada just scored. That is going to be a frequent theme tonight against Austria. That is not going to be a fun game. Um, but yeah, so uh, Canada and Austria is on NHL Network. Go to ESPN Plus for the NHL broadcast package. Catch on those games, and again, games going from 7 o'clock tonight all the way up until probably 1 a.m. on the East Coast. So enjoy the night in hockey, and we will talk to everybody first show of next year next week. Take care, everybody.